Hello, friends. Tonight we're going to talk about those members of the firearms community who believe that they know exactly how you should be shooting and that they alone hold the key to correct shooting technique. There is no way but their way. A few weeks ago, I ran into a female friend of mine who had taken up target shooting as a hobby some months prior, and I asked her how she was enjoying her new pastime. She told me that she had all but given it up. When I had seen her last, she was an excellent shot. No kidding, putting 4 out of 5 shots in the 10 ring at 5 yards. But, as with all of us, regardless of gender, she was working to better control recoil and reduce her split times. Who the hell isn't? I know I am. And she had done all of this via online resources. She had developed her skills all on her own and was a far better shot than most of the people you run into at the range. But one day, a male relative of hers was giving her firearms advice and not accounting for her size or style of shooting or caliber, advised that she drastically alter her grip to apply just an insane amount of force to the gun. She was squeezing the grip so hard that the muzzle was shaking and her fingers and knuckles were white and numb. And that came with the greatest anticipatory flinch of all time, as you can probably imagine. No kidding, the majority of her rounds were 2 feet low and left. But she persisted. He told her that this was the only way to shoot. And after all, he had been shooting for 20 years, so why wouldn't she listen to him? But they are also physically very different. So, also, on days when she would go to the range alone, she would describe being swarmed by overweight gentlemen with beards, each certain that he alone knew exactly what she should be doing with the gun. They knew all there was to know about shooting. So she just quit going to the range. Why would she keep going? And though she likely shot tighter groups than those guys, she wasn't even given the opportunity to develop her own skill set her way. So, this is a pervasive problem in the gun community, I've noticed. You've probably noticed it as well. The idea that there is only one right way to train, one right way to handle a gun, and worse, only one right gun. So let's discuss the problems that come up with that mindset, starting with the idea that there is only one right gun. And the reason I say that this one is worse is because this can discourage someone from ever buying a gun in the first place. So recently I heard a noted trainer say that folks who don't buy Glocks are foolish, and he also said that many folks don't buy Glocks because they simply want to be different. I think the word he used was deviant. Maybe that's true, but I've heard many other popular firearms instructors also say that they feel there's only one real option for a pistol or rifle, whatever that may be. So let me share 2 anecdotes with you. I have another friend who inherited a pistol. It's not a Glock, and he doesn't ever shoot his pistol because he feels that it's not very nice. Somewhere along the way, someone told him that it's so shitty, it's not even worth firing this gun because it's not a Glock. And you know what? His gun is not nice. It's awful. It starts with a T and ends with an RS. But he's not going to buy another pistol. He says he can't afford one, and it's just not a priority for him. That's fine. He has a gun that's perfectly fine. But if it were not for this pervasive attitude that everything that isn't the correct gun is not worth shooting, he would shoot this one. He was firing it before he was told that this gun was just the worst gun and there was no point in even taking it out. I have another friend who just won't shoot Glocks. In fact, she won't shoot any striker-fired guns. She only feels comfortable shooting double-action, single-action guns that have manual safeties. If she had a Glock, she would never shoot it because she doesn't feel comfortable with it. And I hear you saying, well, she could train with a Glock and learn how to use it safely and comfortably. And yes, she could, but you're applying your values and skills to her. She isn't you. She's only going to shoot double-action, single-action guns with a manual safety, and there's nothing you or I can do about it. So I'd rather that someone shoot a gun than no gun, any gun. So even if it's not the one we've all deemed to be the best gun. And by the way, that's a very subjective thing, obviously. I feel stupid even saying that. Like, of course that's subjective. In my mind, the correct gun is a Beretta 92. I think it's the best gun ever made. But, like I said, subjective. I know you don't agree with that opinion. And also, too, let's talk about this. What if somebody just wants to buy a gun because they think that gun is cool? Maybe that person saw the gun in a video game or something, and that's the only gun that person wants. Are you going to disparage that interest end the hobby by telling them that their choice is stupid because it isn't a Glock, please don't do that. So, when it comes to technique, take Weaver's stance for a moment. How many times have you heard a firearms instructor belittle folks who shoot Weaver or who use any technique other than whatever the flavor of the week is? Yeah, you've heard it a lot, haven't you? But does technique expire? No, it certainly doesn't. Someone who has shot for 40 years using the Weaver stance is going to achieve superior shooting performance to someone who has taken up the hobby last week. Let's look at beloved YouTube personality Paul Harrell, for example. I often see Paul shooting in the Weaver stance, yet no one can argue that he is an outstanding marksman in a different league than all of us butterfingered hacks, blasting away at the indoor range. Do you think that you, in shooting modern isosceles, could go toe-to-toe with Paul Harrell? I certainly couldn't, and I don't think you can either. Techniques don't expire. If something works for you, it works. And alternative techniques are worth exploring. So, personally, I shoot modern isosceles, but I have a physical disability that makes that sort of stance, it's pretty painful. So in an attempt to mitigate that pain, I've tried just about every stance I can find to try. Sometimes I just will sort of scour videos to see if there's something out there that I haven't given a whirl. But in the end, I've landed back on the isosceles stance because it's what I've used for 15 years. But what if Weaver had worked? What if I had tried Weaver's stance and I shot 10 times better, all of my pain was gone, and it was awesome? Would I have just stuck with the modern isosceles stance because it's what everyone says that I should do? Hell no, I would have moved to shooting Weaver in a heartbeat, no deliberation required. There is no one size fits all with shooting technique. So that first friend I mentioned, the one who gave up shooting for a time, she had trouble shooting rifles in the modern way with her support hand extended all the way out near the muzzle to control recoil. She just couldn't do that with a rifle. She couldn't even hold the damn thing up like that. So instead, she moved to gripping the mag well and was suddenly able to maneuver the rifle comfortably for a whole range day. How long do you think it was before somebody came up and corrected her and told her that she couldn't shoot that way? Yeah, it wasn't long. And what right did they have to tell her that? Why do gun people, more than most other groups, feel the need to adhere to the idea that there's only one right way? I've heard many disparaging speculations as to why this might be from new shooters who have been on the receiving end of this unsolicited advice, but I like to think it comes from a genuinely good place. Maybe we're so passionate about our hobby that we want everyone we meet to succeed at it. We want every new shooter to progress so quickly that she or they never wants to leave the sport, and both the sport and our rights will grow with every new excited and competent shooter. We genuinely mean well, I like to think. But the hard fact is, most of us aren't that good. I don't know about you, but I'm not the next Jerry Mitchell. I'm not the gods of old's gift to the world of shooting. I shoot thousands of rounds a month, and I'm barely competent. Are you really so awesome that you and you alone can advise someone that their technique needs work? It seems pretty dubious to me. If you're stacking them in at 25 yards, shooting like a Space Force laser beam in a bench rest, then yeah, give people advice. Come give me some advice. But if the folks I see at ranges and my own performance are any indication, you're not that great. And you know that. That's totally okay. So let's focus on our own technique and on our own guns and on our own progress unless we are asked for help. And then please give the caveat that what works for you may or may not be the final answer in the whole of the gun universe, because it's probably not. My word certainly isn't. So let new shooters grow and learn, and instead focus on helping them learn safety and just having fun. That's what will help shooting grow. Before we go, I want to share one last anecdote with you before it's night time. That's why I have both of these guns here on the table. The first gun I ever truly wanted was a Walther P99. I was a kid, and Walthers are awesome. But a well-meaning firearms instructor told me that the only reliable gun is a Glock. So a Glock was my first real semi-auto pistol. I didn't want it, but it was my first because I thought that was the only option. And that was the only gun that I had for over a decade, and I shot many rounds through it, well into the 5 figures. So one day, I'm at a gun shop. I see this gun. And I remembered how much I loved them as a kid. The shape of the grip, the cuts of the slide, the way the trigger looks, the really sort of alien paddle magazine release. And I remembered how I would kind of lie awake at night dreaming of that gun in bed. You know how you do. I bought this on the spot, and I shoot it much better than my old Glock. The Glock was a great gun. It was objectively superior to the P99 in most ways for most people, but my heart wanted the P99. My Walther PPQ has thousands and thousands of rounds through it, and my P99 has many as well, and neither has ever malfunctioned. The Glock might be objectively better, but for me, this is the better gun. If I had listened to my young heart and held out for the P99, I probably would have been a lot happier, and I probably would have shot even more than I did. If you were one of the 4 people who have watched my other videos, you'll also know that my favorite pistol of all time is the Beretta 92A1. My young heart also knew that this was the right all-metal pistol for me. I was right. For me and my taste, the Beretta 92 is the finest pistol ever made, and it's the most reliable pistol I've ever owned. Yes, you heard that correctly. This is the most reliable pistol I've ever owned. By far, actually. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you all have a wonderful evening. There are a lot more videos coming. Good night. Oh, hello there. Thank you all so much for listening to this rambling mess of a video. We learned a lot, we cried a lot, we hugged a lot, and made some new friends. If you like this video, please hit the subscribe button. It helps me out a lot. Thank you very much. Good night.